So I wanted to talk in this video about cancer and Christmas, and the footage that you can see on the screen. It's video footage I filmed before I went into hospital. My husband and I wanted to come to a local stately home that was putting on a Christmas display. They decorated a lot of the rooms for Christmas, and I wanted to come here before I went into hospital because honestly I wasn't sure what was going to happen with my eyesight, whether it was going to be the same as it is at the moment this time next year. And I know that probably sounds a bit morbid, but I wanted to enjoy this while my eyesight was as it was before the procedure. As I walked around this display, I found myself feeling a lot of feelings in relation to the cancer diagnosis and this time of year. I found myself feeling really quite sad. And I do tend to find Christmas difficult anyway. It's not as though I used to thoroughly enjoy Christmas and now all of a sudden that's changed, because that's not the case. I usually become quite reflective over Christmas and think about the loved ones that I've lost. So I do tend to go a bit inwards, I think. But this year, I think there was another sort of dimension added because of the diagnosis. And so I wanted to talk about some of the things that have come up for me in the hope that you can relate to it. Maybe you don't feel so alone with your feelings, and maybe you'll have different ones to me that you might want to share in the comments. So the first, I guess, feelings or thoughts I had was a sense of a loss of innocence, or I don't know whether it would be a loss of ignorance about life. So as you can see from the footage, Christmas is, well, for me, it's a time of magic, especially if you're a child. And displays like this are magical, and I find them magical as an adult. But as I walked around, I felt a sense of sadness and a loss of this magic. And when I say magic, I guess I refer more to the innocence that we have when we're young, the carefree nature that we have for life. And don't get me wrong, I've grown up, and that sense of the carefree aspect of life is long since gone. But I don't know, as I walked around, I just felt that loss of the carefree nature that once was, and I guess the cancer diagnosis has been another way marker for that. It's just another reinforcer that life is not carefree and things can change very quickly. And I guess I'm mourning the loss of taking the future for granted, not being able to do that anymore. Not that I ever really should have done, but I think we do, because I think it'd make life really hard if we were always thinking about, well, what if I'm not here tomorrow? I think in some ways we have to take for granted that we will be here, because otherwise it might paralyze us. But that sense of being able to do that for me now has been lost. I can't do that anymore, and I feel really quite sad about that. I know some people can feel angry when they receive a cancer diagnosis, and I personally haven't experienced that. I don't know, maybe that's coming a little later down the line, but I have experienced and continue to experience a real sense of sadness that often creeps up on me and really hits me. It's sadness about having to live with a level of uncertainty that wasn't there before. And I guess previously I could kind of push any feelings like that to one side because things were seemingly okay. But with the cancer diagnosis, it's like I can't ignore it anymore. And I'm kind of mourning the loss of that life or that mindset that I once had. Another thing I'm kind of thinking about is the need to have a good time despite the diagnosis. Christmas is advertised, isn't it, as a time for family and loved ones to get together and to enjoy each other's company, exchange gifts and have parties and eat and be merry. And to be honest, I prefer my Christmases quiet anyway, and that's what my husband and I have done for many years. So it's not as though this Christmas will be any different, but there's still a sense of feeling like other people are enjoying this time of year, and do I need to put on a face and be the same, or can I just do Christmas the way that I feel, which is, I want to have a quiet time. I don't want to have to pretend that it's particularly enjoyable. I don't want to do that for the sake of other people's comfort, but at the same time I don't want to ruin their Christmas. If people are wishing me happy Christmas or asking me what I'll be doing, I don't really want to put a dampener on their time, but I also want to be true to my own feelings. And the fact that me and my husband like quiet Christmases is probably a good thing, because I don't think I'd be able to face a lot of people at the moment. And I wonder if that's something you struggle with too, the feeling like you need to be happy and yet it's really difficult. Another lot of thoughts that have crossed my mind quite a bit are wondering about this time next year. I try not to get too fixated on the future because I do want to try and live in the now. However, my mind does wander onto thoughts like whether I'll be here next Christmas, and that does make me sad just for the fact that I'm thinking about that. But then that was never guaranteed even prior to the cancer diagnosis. I know that, but it's just a lot more in my mind now. But on the flip side of that, it also gives me the motivation to savour this time, this Christmas, to really try and be present in it and enjoy as much as I can. For us to enjoy, all of us to enjoy as much as we can what our lives are right now, because next Christmas is not guaranteed to any of us and tomorrow is not guaranteed to any of us. I was on Instagram the other day and I came across a quote from the account of the Daily Stoic. I'm very much into Stoicism. It gives me a lot of strength. And one of the posts I put on the screen was this one, and it was by Marcus Aurelius, who said, "The present is all we have to live in or to lose." And I felt very emotional reading that. I took that to mean we have a choice. We can either choose to live in the present and make the most of it, or we can lose the present to worrying too much about the future. And I'm still trying to find that balance. I'm still trying not to get too caught up in the future and the what ifs and where this is all going to lead. But, I'd be lying if I said that I got it right all the time and I was just fully in the here and now. It's just not where I'm at. And I think because I always sort of tend to find Christmas a more reflective time, maybe I feel that even more at the moment. And the next thing I've been thinking about is the seasons of nature and of life. I view the cycle of the seasons a bit like the cycle of life. As we enter winter and nature starts to slow down and hibernate and even pass away, I think about this sort of cycle in our own lives, that cycle of life and death, and then that rebirth in the spring. And, I understand that death is a part of life, and deep down I know that one day I will no longer be here. But cancer has brought that even more into focus in my mind, and it seems a lot more in my face. And I don't necessarily see that as a bad thing. I see it as a gift in some ways, but it's still psychologically difficult. I don't want it to be of detriment to how I live my life now. I want to use it as a motivation to live life more fully, to be a better person, to show my appreciation and love for others more freely, to not be so afraid to be myself. And maybe so that sense of how nature rebirths in the spring, maybe this cancer diagnosis is a death of some parts of myself and a rebirth or a birth of new parts of myself emerging and coming more to the fore. And I do talk about the bad and the good aspects of a cancer diagnosis in another video, and I'll put a link to that on the screen. It is hard. At the same time, it is helping to give me realisations about the things that I should be really grateful for. I want to wish you all a happy Christmas or happy holidays, however you choose to spend this time. I hope you have a restful and a peaceful time, whatever you choose to do. Go well, and I'll see you soon.